Evening everybody. Right, I know I've got several projects on the go, some not really started properly, some have been started since last April, still not finished. However, it being 2014, and as I dare say you're all aware, 100 years since the start of the First World War, I thought about building models from the catalogues of 1914. There's several potential models in the catalogues available in the New Zealand Meccano Forum Manuals Gallery, and this is the start of the first one, which is a Battleship from the 1914 Australian manual, and it's a number 4 set model. Of course, the 4 sets then you got quite a few more parts than you did in the later number 4 sets, or outfits as they called them then. So this is going to be part of the main base for the superstructure, if you like. We have all the parts I've got in stock, as it were, are in this box. I do need some more bits. For example, I need another 3 of these flanged wheels with the pulleys on. These are a bit ropey and I've had these for many years. In fact, it looks like somebody's drilled that one out in the past. But they're not going to form as wheels, the basis for the guns. Now, I'm trying to keep it more or less exactly the same as the book where at all possible. However, I am using slightly more modern parts in some cases. These are quite ancient, these flange plates. But these, of course, are 1960s, 70s blue. And looking at the diagram, I've only started this very late last night, and again it's late again tonight. I've done it. If you try and go by the manual, you cannot fit these sector plates in the middle. There's nowhere to fit them. They don't line up with anything. The same goes for the later structure when I put the 2.5 by 3.5 inch flange plates across the top. That will require some adjustment to get it to fit. It fits about like there's 2 of them. Guns go either end, the main guns. So you had a choice anyway with the sector plates. You either put them opposite on one side or opposite ends, one on just to one side there and the other on the opposite side, so staggered, or 2 both sides to the other side, and it looked pretty naff. So tonight I've had a look at it and I've altered the design as best as I can. I've used these triangular plates. That's given me a central hole there, and using angle brackets and fish plates, a few washers, I've managed to secure it in the middle quite sturdily actually. The only difference will be is when I come to do the main part, the hull, which is essentially 25mm strips, 12.5 inch long 25mm strips, those there. I may have to extend slightly so this fits in place. It may fit in already. So that's the first stage really, and it's going to take a while, and hopefully Ralphie boy can sort me out some more parts. So that's the stage at the moment. So folks, this is the next bit of the Battleship build. Again, I've had to alter the design, not quite so much this time, but to start with, these 2 3.5 by 2.5 inch flange plates are joined together by 2 fish plates, one each side, and although it's not in the set, I think there's only a washer. I say one in the set in this model. I think there's only one washer, but wherever there's a slot I like to use a washer, so I've used more washers. But also where washers are concerned, now we've got the sector plates lined up, the next alignment issue is these flange plates lining up correctly, so you can use, what you should be using is an angle bracket and a fish plate, like it is, but they should fit inboard, and there's no way on this earth they're going to fit inboard or outboard without spacers. So that's what we've done, added some spacers in the form of 3 washers per side, all 4 corners, there and at the top, and it is very similar but required spacing. and looking at the diagram, the angle brackets are probably one more hole over than it appears in the diagram. Here we are with the first main gun on the Battleship. This will be the forward main gun. Again, the instructions are pretty poor, to be honest. You've no idea which length axle to use for the upright pivot of the gun. If you look at the diagram, you would suggest it's at least the 3.5 inch. It can either be the 3.5 inch or the 2 inch. Now the 3.5 inch is far too long, but the 2 inch, if you build it as per the instructions, it should be held on with a collar on the top. Well, obviously it's not long enough, as you can see, to have a collar both ends. But whilst we're using couplings, there's no need to use a collar, so I haven't. And just use the grub screws to secure the couplings onto the barrel, as it were, which is a 3.5 inch axle, and secure it to the top pivot. The bottom is secured by a collar, and it will turn. There's no elevation, but it does turn. It's quite neat, actually. It's not too loose, but not bad. Can't do the other gun yet because I've only got 3 of these flanged wheels with the pulleys. I'm trying to keep the same look, more or less, and I've only got one, just the one left of the large ones. So we've actually saved the part there, where so far we only seem to be adding a few. Right folks, I've continued with the Battleship, really just in places where I have parts, still waiting for parts to come. So as you can see, only the one main gun on the rear is, well, half done. But we have got the smaller guns at the back done. I'll give you some close-ups later. There's been quite a bit of guesswork, even when the instructions seem to suggest that it would go together easily without much thought. So finding the spacings for all these fittings here, for example, exactly where they're going to fit. The cross bracing across underneath the gun barrel there, and there's one across there that also has the guns there. Especially this end, because it's 5-hole. It doesn't say. You could easily fall into the trap of using a double angled strip, one of those, but of course probably damage the ends of those because the force would pull in and probably bend the ends. So we've used a 5-hole strip and angle brackets suitably turned to suit. This curve more or less formed itself, and it's not too bad. The whole structure, when you put it together, is quite flimsy. Or while you're putting it together, it's quite flimsy. And even now it's a bit, as you can probably imagine being strips, it's a bit rickety-rockety, but it's actually reasonably solid now. I've added washers again on the over slots, which wouldn't have been the case with the instruction book. Finding out where to put all the strips in relation to the base of the hull there, and these flange plates here was a bit of a trial and error. But on the whole, I have tried to stick to the instructions, or best guess if you like. I'll just show you the back end, or the stern I suppose. Once I worked out where these strips fixed to the flange plates and the extensions where they fixed, that all come together quite easily. What I have done though, instead of using axles for locating, say, the guns here, for example, I mean, if you look at the instructions, you're looking at about at least a 2 inch, if not 2.5 inch axle there for the gun supports on the rear. It's just a waste. It looks really poor, really. I know it's made with parts from a set, okay, fair enough. But I've got some 1.5 inch axles in there now, which are a lot neater. and I can show you a close up there. So the originals would have hung down to about there, and also what I've done to raise the guns, so have a realistic. The top of the barrels will be very close to the sides of the ship there, so I put an extra collar in as spacers. This may mean adding more colours later on, but I've also simplified the construction. Instead of having collars with grub screws or screws, I'm using grub screws, although I'm running out, I'm about to run out I think. Grub screws are neater, so in this case here you don't need a grub screw in the contract gear there, or the extra collar there. Just one on the top holding the barrel onto the pivot, one on the bottom collar, sandwiching it together, and I've adjusted it quite tight so they're quite stiff actually, but nice. It's a little bit looser. I had the right trouble getting these level, and even now they're a little bit out, but the main problem was the original contract gear I had a deeper boss there. A bit odd. But that's there. The same regarding axles with the flagpole. You've got a flagpole that hangs well down here, it's just a waist, so suitable length axle used for the flagpole, suitably adjusted, and the instructions only include one spring clip there, so for security I'll put another one on. In fact, the parts list in the instructions I'm a bit dubious about, because although we haven't got there yet, I've got to build the crow's nests and the bridge. I'm waiting for the 11.5 inch axles for that. There's a few more 5 hole strips, 2.5 inch long strips to be used, and in my stash that I already collected, I think I've used them all up already, and I've used 4, 2 here, 2 there. I do have some 7L strips, so there's a possibility that the 7L strips should have gone there, but if you look at the diagram, which on the PDF you can zoom in quite well, quite close, they look like 5s to me. So we're progressing. It's not actually bad, is it? It's honestly no way it's going to float, but it's quite a nice representation of a model. Well, I'll say battleship. I suppose it's more like a destroyer, really. That size with the guns that it has. One thing I did realise was the bow end doesn't angle that way, and once I'd found that out, I realised that these all come together a lot better. So we're waiting mainly. I think there's probably a couple of things I can do, but we're mainly waiting on parts at the moment. Few things I haven't got. 5.5 inch axles. I've got about 4 5 inch, but not one 5.5 inch axle, so that sort of thing. But there's been no real major changes to the design once these previously mentioned alignment issues have been sorted. They're all as they are, and these hang free. They're quite strong actually with this new bracketed setup here. So here we have a bit of a close-up of the main gun, or the main foregun. Virtually the same design as the instructions, slightly shorter axle. It seems to be a common theme with this model that the axles are way too long or just slightly too short. So wherever that happens, I'll just use the nearest length axle to suit, without it being overhanging too much, and obviously being the right length to accommodate all the parts. There's no elevation, just windage adjustment, turning turret, and it just misses the top of the ship there. Right, here we have the rear guns, which are finished. Again, same with the axles. I've used the ones that look the neatest, without too much overhang. Both move, they're quite snug in their bracket there, which is a 7L strip and 2 angle brackets to give the slight curve in the sides there. with the strips. I've actually had really not to do any bending. The formation of the parts putting together and adding the nuts and bolts has pulled it in. So there we are, folks, we've got the two funnels in place. I've made a slight change after a bit of playing around. I've removed the small brass collars from underneath and replaced them with a 1-inch pulley. That way, as it gives a bit more of a footing to hold everything together a bit tightly. So they're not too bad. I'd have to compare it with the other funnels and cylinders, should I ever get hold of any. Right folks, thanks to Ralph and his shop, we've got quite a few more parts to complete, hopefully, this Battleship, and indeed for some other models as well. Where we're up to so far, as you can see, there's a few more additions. We've got the bridge fitted, but the actual fitting of it on top of this double angled strip here was something I've fashioned myself. I'll show a bit more close up of that in a while. There was no instruction at all on how to fit that to there. Basically all I could see was this double angled strip here and the bridge, nothing else, no description either. The mast's been fitted more or less as the instructions state. There's a collar underneath each one, and then you've got the 1-inch pulleys on top. I did have to take the tyre funnels apart to get it under, but it has helped actually. Both parties have helped, because the tyres clamp down on the pulley and the pulley lifts up on the tyre, holding everything quite tight. Although it was okay, even better now. If you notice in the crow's nest, we've had to use a later flange wheel without the pulley. Can't get any of those yet, so I'm still stuck with my original 3. And again, fitting the crow's nest, I've had to fashion my own interpretation of really nothing, made it up as I go along again, because there's no description on how these fit. What I have done to save bending stuff that I don't have to bend, the construction of the crow's nest differs from the bridge. The bridge is predominantly 5-hole strips and angled brackets, whereas the crow's nest is 1 5-hole strip and a double bend strip. Now if you go on the instruction book, you're supposed to straighten that end out. I thought, well, that's just, there's no need. So what I've done is I've connected the back end of the crow's nest with an obtuse angled bracket. Again, a bit of working out was fitting the rear gun. Checking the picture, I've moved it back now to clear the smaller guns, and we have a lighter non-pulleyed flange wheel underneath now. Hopefully I'll pick up a few more and then I can change that. That won't take long to change. So we're progressing well. You've got to watch these masts though, because you can have your eye out on it. And the observant of you there might notice these extra flanged plates. There's one here and one on the other side. No, it's not a 1914 hydrofoil. It's just I'm fed up with it falling over and usually ending up on the floor, and they help to steady it. Now folks, before I show you a few of the close-up, shall we say, alterations, on one of the forums, either the Mammoth forum or the New Zealand Meccano forum, somebody wondered whether a Meccano boat or ship would float should it be sealed. Obviously in its current state it's never going to get anywhere, but I'm mad enough to try it. So the idea is, although it is top heavy and there's no keel, so I may have to add weight or indeed a keel, and I might have to clean the bath out as well first, because it's full of all the other stuff that's accumulated upstairs. I'm going to wrap the hull in cellophane or cling film a couple of times, and I'm going to see if it'll float. I think the answer is no, but I'm going to have a go anyway. So that will be for the future, and if it does float then I'll be amazed, but I might as well try it. Right folks, there you can see the fixing for the bridge. What I've had to you know, I made that up as I went along really. The reason for this 5-hole 2-inch strip is, one, I haven't got any 4-hole 2-inch strips, they're quite rare. And I've got 2 green ones I think, but they wouldn't look right. And this is to help give the 1 bolt fixing there a bit of rigidity there. As you can see, the construction is mostly 2.5-inch 5-hole strips with angle brackets, and I've just noticed I need to put some washers in there. Right, this is a bit awkward to show you. I'm actually holding the ship at an angle. That's the crow's nest, and you can see how I've fitted it to the bush wheel using fish plates and angle brackets. The slots on the angle brackets and fish plates do give quite a lot of adjustment, which is good, and I've managed to get it central and quite solid. The front fish plate to the left of the picture, that's obviously not fixed to the front, but that's helping it support and not move on the 1 bolt fixings, which you can see in the foreground to the right. We've got the side guns finished off, formed of pinions. I think those are 26s, slightly larger than these. I think 3/4 by 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. Anyway, you get 2 of each, and I thought the diagram says it looks like you got 2 of the same on one side and 2 of the same on the other, but it looks a bit uneven, so I've put the larger one on the front side, and to the side of that one I put the smaller one, and the same with the side. Now you're supposed to use a 6.5 inch, 2 6.5 inch axles. I've only got one, and I ordered a load of parts off Ralph. But as usual, my parts list is a bit disjointed over 3 emails, so I probably only ordered the one. So what I've done is use a collar, a 2-inch axle, and the gear, pinion gear, each side at the rear to make up the guns each side. And apart from the stringing of the masts and that is essentially it. Just a quick update, folks. As you can see, I've had a bit of a tidy up, and I've even done a bit of polishing of the surface. During that, I said earlier that I couldn't find any of the 6.5 inch or 5.5 inch, I think, axles to go across there that I thought I'd ordered. Well, I found them, so I've replaced the 2-inch axles either side with one all the way through, thus saving on collars. So I did get it right at the end of the list. Right, folks, as the ship's almost finished, apart from the stringing up of the masts, this shows you how poor the parts list is really. Yes, some parts like brass collars I've used instead of some pulleys, and because I haven't used the original cylinders for the funnels, I haven't used so many of these, so that's understandable. There's no idea what that 1/2 inch no-boss pulley's about. There's nothing at all in the instructions. There's a 2-inch axle there and a 1-inch pulley. Again, I've used the already set up pulleys and tyres for the funnel, so okay. And I've changed the use of some of the axles or the length of them. But these, I haven't got a clue where these are for. These strips and these double bent strips, no idea whatsoever. Very poor, and I hope that's something that's not going to continue with the next models, which London Bus is the next one, I think. So we'll string it together, the masts, and then we'll show you the completed ship. Right then, here we are with the completed Battleship. Thankfully today the part number 20 flange wheels, the earlier versions with the pulleys on the back, as it were, built in really, they arrived today, so I was able to keep the original look for the most part. Surprised that they do seem to be quite rare, and considering they was the only wheels available for anything for seems to be quite a considerable amount of time, I thought there might be a few more. So we may have to revert to the later ones in future models if we can't get any. So anyway, as you can see, we've we've got the crow's nests done, and we've got the stringing done. That was a bit of fun, trying to keep everything in tension. And I suggest stretching the string a little bit so it doesn't stretch once it's on the model. I didn't think it would stay up on the top of the mast in place, but it's quite good. Everything's taken from the original manual, or in some cases my interpretation of what is the case with the limited description and illustrations. So there we go, one side of the ship. You can see where the string is secured at the bow end of the ship. I did try a blood knot there, it kept coming undone, it being waxed, and doing a double blood knot would have been rather bulky, so it's a normal knot there. We come along to the first main gun. Now this has been adjusted. It was actually like this in the instructions. You can see that the two flanged wheels are separated now. In effect, this has just put it a little bit higher than the norm, and it now just about clears the ship sides. That's the bridge, a little bit oversized to say the least. When we move along to my funnels made out of 1-inch pulleys, 1-inch boss pulleys and tyres to fit. Now the rear gun, as you can see there, I've had to move it back several holes to clear the string, which doesn't show like that on the model. And then we move to the back, and the sorry, not the back, the stern, get it right. And there we have the flagpole. I'm yet to add flags. That can be done at any time. I'm busy. Well, while I've been waiting for parts, I've been busy getting on with the second model, which isn't the bus, it is the motor van. That'll be coming soon. And then you can see the crow's nests and the stringing of the masts. There should be some two little fiddly flags up there. But whilst not any specific battleship, and to be honest it's more of a sort of a destroyer size if you ask me, it's a pleasant model. A bit frustrating, as indeed they seem to all be these days, but we've got round the problems and best guessed here and there. So there you go. I will get round to trying to see if it'll float, but it's very top heavy, as you can imagine, but that will be some time away.